But I self-censored myself then, and that kind of experience reminded me that over the last, I don't know, 10, 12 years, I haven't purposely photographed the homeless. I've never gone out purposely to go, oh, there's some homeless people, I'm going to photograph them. That's never been my bag. But when me and Kirsty have been in cities and I've been taking pictures of the cities, I've always come across homeless people. And some, as it turns out, aren't homeless and are just kind of like swinging the lead. But it made me think, maybe I should do a podcast about the ethics and morality, that word, about photographing the homeless on the street, because although I've got a lot of pictures of the homeless and I've taken a lot of pictures of the homeless, I've never done anything with them. Now, I always had this kind of like, I don't know how to put it, I've always had like an idea that I might, started off thinking, I'm collecting all these pictures, I'm doing street photography, every city, every place we go to, I take my camera, I do street photography because I love it, as you know. But there's always homeless people there, so every city I've been in, every town probably I've been in the last 10, 12 years, I've photographed somebody homeless. Not intentionally, just come across them, took the picture. More often than not, I do it kind of from the hip, like I always do. I don't go up and ask them, although I did on one occasion, and I'll talk about that in a sec. Two occasions, actually, if I count a recent occasion. But mostly it's just me taking pictures of the situation I come across. If I see a handbag on the floor, stop and take a picture of it. If I see a homeless person, I won't go up and get in their face and go, how'd you get here, mate? I'll just take a discreet picture as I pass, in my kind of style. Two reasons for that. One, as you know, I'm a yellow belly street photographer. I don't have the balls to go up to people. But two, I don't want to upset them. I don't want to ruin their day. So then that kind of leads back, doesn't it, to, well, what's the point in taking a fucking picture then, dipshit, if you're not going to do anything with it, if you don't want to like have that interaction, what you're doing. So my kind of justification over the years is, well, at some point I'm going to do an exhibition, or I'm going to do a book, or I'm going to make a documentary or something and stick all these pictures in it and go, look how fucking great Lance is. But that's kind of sat in my brain for years and years and years, and to the point where I've never done anything with it, and I probably never will, because I find it difficult to get past that exploitation of them. So I might justify it by going, I'm going to do an exhibition of these homeless people I photographed in cities. I don't know the names. I don't know if they're still homeless. I don't know if they're still alive. I don't know who they are, but I'm not going to exploit them, because anything I make out of this exhibition, I'm going to give it to the homeless. And I've thought about that a lot over the years. But what the fuck is that? What is that? Let's say I do an exhibition in Rotherham and I go, these are the pictures I've photographed of people in Rotherham and Sheffield, Doncaster, homeless in the last decade. Aren't I fucking great? Aren't I a good photographer? Let's say I earn 100 quid. Let's say I raise 1,000 quid and I go up to some homeless charity and go, there you go, there's 1,000 quid for my exploitation of the homeless over the last decade. What does that do for them, and what does it do for me? What does it actually do? What does it achieve? And I think, if I really cared that much and I really gave a shit that much, I'd just go and get £1,000 and give it to them, wouldn't I? The photograph wouldn't have to happen. The vehicle of the photograph exhibition or book or whatever doesn't have to happen. The me doing the exhibition for money is me kind of softening the blow to myself, making myself feel better about doing it because I've earned some money for the charity. And I'm not entirely sure that that's not just morally fucking bankrupt, doing that. And I have kind of battled with that. And I've had conversations with students about this. I've had conversations with colleagues about it, other photographers, other artists, other people who've done similar things. And I still don't have the answer. I have feelings, I have opinions, I have debates with myself about it quite a lot, but I still don't have an answer. But that leads me back to this picture I'll show you now. So I didn't really start doing street photography or city photography until me and Kirsty started going to cities quite a bit, and Liverpool was the first one I went to. Coincidentally, the first year after we started doing that, I started my master's degree, and while I was doing the first bit of my master's degree, I was kind of figuring out what my project was going to be, and I decided quite early on I was not going to shoot it on digital. I was going to relearn film and shoot everything on film, A, to get myself to a point where I was good at it again, but B, because it's so much more difficult and it might make me think a bit. So I had a Pentax K1000, a couple of rolls of Tri-X film, and went out into Sheffield which is quite close to where I live in Rotherham, and had a walk around the city, and come across a few homeless people while I was out and about there. But one person I did come across, which kind of, it was a strange feeling situation. I'm going to show you this, and I'm going to show it on screen. I'm going to tell you why I'm showing it you. And bear in mind, this has never been published, although I think I maybe did at one point, sometime a few years ago, put a web page together on my website to kind of talk about this, but I left it for a couple of days and took it down because I felt completely uncomfortable doing it. So this guy, really nice guy, he was selling the Big Issue on, I think it's on Pond Street in Sheffield. And what struck me initially was, we'll talk about in a sec, the kind of composition where he was stood and the signage and stuff. But as I approached him, I was doing my yellow belly approach. I got my camera on a strap down my side. I was going to do a sneaky little, like this little gizmo here. It's kind of like a Pentax copy. So I got my camera and I was giving it a bit like, shan't I? Bear in mind everything's manual, and I had no idea if it was even remotely in focus or anything. But I stopped myself doing that. I stopped myself at that point doing it. I didn't actually do that. I stood and watched him for a second and watched him sell a couple of magazines. And then he clocked me and he looked at me and smiled. And I thought, you're a fucking human being, Lance, and you claim to be a really approachable, likeable, amiable kind of guy. Go and speak to him. So I just walked over to him and said, hi mate, are you alright? Lovely dog. Been a lover of dogs. Dogs are always a good kind of like thing to use to, to introduce people. I said to him, if I buy a copy of your magazine, could I take some pictures of you? And he said, you can take some pictures anyway. I said, no, let me buy a copy of your Big Issue, and then I'll take a few pictures and I'll feel, a little less guilty for, I don't want you to feel like I'm kind of exploiting you. He said, I don't, mate, you can take pictures. So, I don't know why. I think I did this to try and make myself feel better. I gave him the money for the magazine, £4 or whatever it was, and he gave me the magazine, and I gave it him back. And I said, no, you keep it, mate. Keep the money. That's fine. If I can just take your picture. He's like, take my picture, mate. It's all right. He said, thank you for giving him the magazine back so he could resell it. And so then I took this picture and a few other pictures on the street, for my £4. And it was only later when I thought about what I'd done. And I thought, what a wank thing to do. It was nothing to do with him. It was nothing to do with how it made him feel. It was all about making myself feel better. And I look back now, and he didn't act it, he didn't say it, and he didn't kind of come across it. But I think it must have felt really patronising for me to go, well, I can afford to give £4, mate. I'll give £4 and keep your magazine. Keep your fucking poxy magazine. Which I didn't say that, but I thought it must have felt that way. And I thought, I should have just took the fucking magazine, shouldn't I? It would have been a more clear, transparent, and more fair and more honest transaction if I'd taken the magazine. And that's kind of bothered me a bit over the years. But hopefully he didn't take offence to it, and hopefully he resold the magazine and made a few extra quid. That makes me feel better. Again, it doesn't make him feel any fucking better, does it? So even now, 10 years on, I'm thinking about me, not him. But it started me on the journey of thinking about, what the fuck are you doing going to photograph homeless? But within that, all that guilt and that anguish and that fucking confliction, it's never stopped me doing it. And I think that speaks volumes about myself and other people who shoot on the street in terms of why we're really doing these things. So, be interesting to see what you guys think about those kind of moral dilemmas, particularly in a situation like this. Drop a comment below or ping me an email if you don't want to go public and say what you think about it. I'm highly conflicted about today, but I'm addicted. I can't stop. That says more about me than them. So anyway, the photograph in question here, the kind of juxtaposition of him and his dog and his homelessness against a shop lease, which you would know and I know, that shop lease even 10 years ago was probably worth 30 or 40,000 quid a year. And this poor guy, I don't know from Adam, but most people I speak to who are homeless or have been homeless or about to be made homeless tend to come from a couple of different camps, but more often than not, it's kind of like situations of life that have flared up and they've gone out of control. Very rarely do people make themselves homeless on purpose. Some do. And it has been pointed out to me over the years, particularly in the bigger cities, and I particularly noticed it myself in Athens, how there's a lot of charlatans out there as well, so you have to be very careful about accepting people for what they appear to be. But this guy was clearly genuinely homeless with his doggies, and I just thought that one frame there with the life going on around him and his dogs and the shop lease available, and it's almost like he's invisible, isn't he? Do you know what I mean? We've got a human being in dire straits, in need of help and assistance and care, outside a shop that's worth probably millions of pounds, actually, the building, that's for rent, then people only bother about the rent. They're not bothered about him. And that's not their fault per se. But the society we live in, it's almost like I could have raised him out of the shot and it wouldn't make any difference to anybody. But he's there. He's alive. He's a human. He's there. And in my mind, it doesn't matter how he ended up there. There should be a better way of helping, assisting, making things better for everybody. And that might sound like a bit of a communist or a bit of a socialist kind of thing, but I'm a socialist at heart, and I don't mean a champagne socialist. I don't mean a fucking tree-hugging, wishy-washy woke, let everybody do what they want, well, you know, socialist. I mean a real socialist. And I photographically, I'm shooting 35mm and it's in focus. That's a big fucking start for me. Exposure's good. Obviously it's a scan, digital scan. It's not been, I might have just tweaked the shadows a bit when I scanned it, but generally speaking it's how it was. So I was pleased with the shot, pleased with the composition, pleased with the content of it, although I would prefer never to have to photograph homeless people, because there shouldn't be anybody homeless, should there? But I took a series as I went past him, and again, this is not quite as good because there's a bit of a woman just walking out of shot, and I'm going to kind of chop the woman in half at the ATM machine. This would have been better if I'd have kind of cropped it that way, maybe a little bit more, and could have seen the whole woman there. But again, even the story, cash machine, woman getting cash, big issue still. And I know they kind of stand in strategic places to make sure they can sell magazines and people have got money. That I get that, but it's still that capitalist bastard world we live in, where potentially in that machine on the wall there's all the money in the world, and that guy's having to sell a magazine just to have somewhere to stay tonight, or maybe not even have somewhere to stay, somewhere to eat. And then even now in today's kind of society, or today's kind of dilemmas, the SWFC, Sheffield Wednesday Football Club moniker on the sign there, that's kind of quite poignant because they're about to go into the shitter, aren't they? Which again is another fucking capitalist, poorly run kind of issue, but it's strange how things happen in life.